Welcome back, nerds. My name is Avery Moore. It is day 18 of Preptober, and today we are going to be looking at Katytastic's 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outlining method. If you have been following my Preptober vlog, you'll know that my past few videos have all been about looking at different outlining methods for your novel and finding the right outlining method that fits your writing style. I will link some of those videos down below for anyone who wants to look at some different outlining methods, but for now though, let's jump straight into the 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline. Now, this is the most detailed novel outlining method that I am aware of. I recommend it for extremely intense plotters, people who need to know exactly what is going to be happening in their novel every step of the way. Pantsers, stay well away. This plotting method is definitely not for you. While all our other plotting methods had little charts or diagrams to demonstrate how they work, the 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline looks a little something like this. Isn't it beautiful? It's so detailed. Look at all the different plot points. Now, this outlining method doesn't just outline the different sections of your novel, it gives you an outline for every single chapter. So, starting with Act 1, Block 1, we begin with the introduction to the world and the protagonist, the inciting incident that jumpstarts the events of the novel, and the fallout that occurs as a result of the inciting incident. In Block 2, we have the reaction and rebellion, where the protagonist tries to fight the changes in their life, the action that the protagonist decides to take, and the consequence of that action. In Block 3, we add some pressure. Things get a bit more intense. Then there is a plot twist, always fun, I love plot twists, and a push into the next part of the journey, which leads us to Act 2. In Act 2, Block 4, we have New World, or to be more accurate, the new life that our protagonist has just begun. Then we have some fun and games as the protagonist starts to adjust to their new life. And then we have the old juxtaposition. That's a new word to add to my vocabulary, juxtaposition. I like that word. The definition is the fact of two things being seen or placed close together with contrasting effect. So the protagonist has some reminders of their old life, and they are comparing their old life to their new one. In Block 5, we get the build-up. Things start getting more intense. We get to the midpoint where the intensity reaches its peak, and the reversal where things kind of get turned on their head. The fun and games are over, and there is no going back. In Block 6, we see the consequence of the reversal, then we have some trials that the protagonist has to go through, and the dedication. The protagonist devotes themselves fully to achieving their goals, they are ready to take decisive action, and this pushes us into Act 3. In Act 3, Block 7, we begin with the calm before the storm, building up towards the climax of the novel. Then we get another plot twist. Hooray! I love plot twists. And then we have the darkest moment, the part of the novel where everything seems hopeless and the protagonist cannot see how they are going to succeed. Now we get to Block 8 and the power within. The protagonist finds the motivation they need to keep going. Then we have the action and rally. The protagonist gathers their friends and loved ones for one final push against whatever it is they are fighting against, and they all converge for the finale. And in our final block, we have the battle. Doesn't need to be a literal battle, of course, but the protagonist is facing off against all of their problems. And the climax, where we get to see the results of the battle. Is the protagonist going to be victorious, or do they lose everything? And finally, the resolution. What does life look like for the protagonist after the battle is over? And for the final time, we are going to take an example of an existing story and look at how that story resembles the 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline. And one novel that I can think of that has a very similar outline is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, it is not the Sorcerer's Stone. I have no idea why they changed the name. I guess the publishers thought that Americans were too stupid to know what a philosopher is. Anyway, first we have the introduction. Harry Potter is a poor orphan boy who is abused and neglected by his aunt and uncle in favour of his horrible cousin Dudley. Then we get to our inciting incident. They go to the zoo for Dudley's birthday, and when Harry is looking at one of the snakes, the glass magically disappears. This is where Harry starts to realise that maybe he isn't quite as normal and ordinary as he always thought he was. And the fallout from this is that his aunt and uncle lock him in the cupboard under the stairs for the rest of the summer. Now we get to the reaction and rebellion. Harry receives a letter addressed to him and his uncle refuses to let him read it. This happens multiple times, with Harry receiving a letter and his uncle confiscating it. So Harry decides to rebel. He decides that somehow he is going to get his hands on one of those letters and see what it says. He takes action. He decides to get up early and fetch the mail before anyone else, but his uncle nails the mail slot shut. More letters keep coming and Harry keeps trying to get to them, but his uncle always stops him. As a consequence, the family decides to travel far away from the house just to get away from the letters. Then the pressure builds. The family are staying at an abandoned old lighthouse in the middle of nowhere, and at midnight on Harry's birthday, there begins a loud thumping at the door. Somebody is trying to break in. And now we get to our first plot twist. Hagrid comes in and explains to Harry that the reason so many strange things keep happening around him is because he is a wizard. And all those letters Harry keeps being sent are acceptance letters to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And then the push to Act 2. Harry's uncle forbids Harry from leaving with Hagrid, but Harry ignores him. He follows Hagrid out into the night and his new life is about to begin. Then we get to the new world. Harry explores Diagon Alley and buys all the supplies he needs for his new school. We have some fun and games. He meets some new friends on the Hogwarts Express. He gets sorted into Gryffindor House, and for the first time, instead of being mistreated and looked down upon, Harry finds that people at his new school actually like and accept him for who he is. But then we get some old juxtaposition. Snape humiliates Harry in potions class by deliberately asking him loads of questions that Harry doesn't know the answer to because he wasn't raised by a magical family. This makes Harry feel like an outsider and that maybe he doesn't belong in this world after all. Now we get to the build-up. Harry, Ron and Hermione sneak out one night and accidentally stumble upon a three-headed dog, barely escaping with their lives. Hermione notices that the dog was standing on top of a trapdoor, meaning it must be guarding something. Something that is so dangerous that it is worth keeping a three-headed man-eating dog around in a school full of small children. At the midpoint, the children are exposed to even more danger when a troll breaks into the castle. Hermione has locked herself in the girls' bathroom and Harry and Ron have to rescue her from the troll. And then the reversal. Hermione goes against her usual nature and lies to the teachers. She tells the teachers that she deliberately went looking for the troll and that the boys tried to stop her in an attempt to get the boys out of trouble. This, of course, has a consequence. Harry, Ron and Hermione are now inseparable. Before this point, Harry and Ron didn't really like Hermione. They found her really bossy and annoying, but because she lied to get them out of trouble, they are now besties. Then we have some trials. Harry has his first Quidditch match, but during the match, his broom gets jinxed and tries to shake him off. Hermione thinks that Snape is the one jinxing the broom, so she sets fire to his cloak and the jinx is broken. Later, when they are discussing what happened with Hagrid, Hagrid accidentally mentions Nicholas Flamel, and this is where we see the protagonist's dedication. During the Christmas holidays, Harry dedicates all of his time and risks getting into trouble searching the restricted section in the library for any information he can find on Nicholas Flamel. Then we get to the calm before the storm. The children are all busy studying for their exams. Hagrid introduces them to his baby dragon Norbert. The three realise that Hagrid can't keep Norbert, so they help to smuggle the dragon to Ron's brother Charlie in Romania. But then we get to our next plot twist. It turns out the man who gave Hagrid the dragon's egg was asking lots of questions about the three-headed dog, and Hagrid let slip to the man that if you play music in front of the three-headed dog, it will lull him to sleep. The children figure out that it must be Voldemort who gave Hagrid the dragon's egg, and now Voldemort knows how to get past the three-headed dog. Then comes the darkest moment. The children go to tell Dumbledore what they have discovered, but they find out that Dumbledore is gone. He has left Hogwarts on ministry business, and now there is no one to stop Voldemort from getting the stone. But our heroes find the power within. They decide that if Dumbledore isn't there to protect them, then they will need to stop Voldemort from getting the stone themselves. Not quite sure why they didn't just tell McGonagall or one of the other teachers, but apparently if Dumbledore's not available, then 3 11-year-old children are your next best bet. Then they take action and rally together. They make a plan to sneak out at night and confront Voldemort before he can find the stone. Then they converge at the Forbidden Corridor where they use a flute to put the three-headed dog to sleep, and then they go through the trapdoor. Then we have the battle. There are several dangerous trials that the children have to pass in order to progress. Harry uses his skill in Quidditch to catch the flying key. Ron uses his skill in wizard chess to defeat the life-size chess set, and Hermione uses her wits to solve the potions riddle, which allows Harry to enter the final room. And now we get to the climax of the novel where Harry finally confronts Voldemort and fights against him, which is disappointingly anticlimactic. Literally, all he needs to do is poke Voldemort and he just burns to ash at his feet. And lastly, we have our revolution. Voldemort is defeated, Harry is okay, Gryffindor wins the House Cup, and it's a happy ending for everyone except for Voldemort. So that is Katytastic's 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline. What did you guys think of it? Do you think it might be a good method to help you plan out your novel? That is your homework for today. Think about all of the different plot outlining methods that we have looked at. Think about which of these methods best suits you and your writing style. Test out all of the ones that you like and make a decision on which outlining method you want to use when you start your NaNoWriMo novel. It doesn't just have to be one method. You could use a combination of all of your favourite outlining methods. It doesn't necessarily need to be one of these methods. If you are not a fan of any of the outlining methods that I have shown you, you could research different outlining methods to find one that suits you better. And if you are a really hardcore pantser, then you don't necessarily need a plot outline for your novel at all. You can just fly in blind and make up the story as you go. So we have our plot, we have our characters, we have our setting, and we have an outline for our novel. Now we are finally ready to go back to the NaNoWriMo website and click the Announce a New Project button, right? Right? Wrong. There are still a couple of things we need to do first. For starters, when you announce your project on the NaNoWriMo website, it will ask for a brief summary of your novel. And you can't just write any old summary, you have to come up with the world's most gripping blurb. And that is what we are going to be talking about tomorrow. In my next video, I will be talking about how to write a really captivating blurb that will make people stop and think, I want to read this book. We will be talking about what information you should include in your blurb, what information you should leave out, and roughly how long your blurb should be. But that is the end of this video. Please leave a comment letting me know what plot outlining method you're planning on using for Nano, especially if you are using a method that I haven't mentioned. I am always excited to learn about different plot outlining methods. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope I see you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, Avery from the future back again. You can see how long ago I wrote the scripts for these videos. I keep calling it the Announce a New Project button, when the button actually says Create a New Project now. Anyway, in my next couple of videos I will be talking about things that I did specifically because this is info that will be asked for when you create a project on the NaNoWriMo website. As acknowledged, there are some of you who might not be creating any projects on the NaNoWriMo website this year because, you know, reasons that will be talked about in a later video. Now, you can always skip these next two videos if you want to, but I think that these things can be useful regardless of whether you're using the NaNoWriMo website or not. For instance, in tomorrow's video, I am talking about making a blurb for your novel. Some writing websites might ask for a blurb for your novel, others will not, but I think that having a blurb on hand is always useful in case you're talking to somebody about your novel and they ask for a summary. You can just show them your blurb and it will give them a rough idea of what your novel's about. The video that I'll be posting the day after tomorrow is about creating a Pinterest board and a playlist for your novel. This video I also made because when you create a project on the NaNoWriMo website, it will ask if your project has a Pinterest board and a playlist. But again, having a Pinterest board and a playlist for your novel is something that can be really useful for any writer, regardless of whether they are going to be using the NaNoWriMo website or not. So yeah, I hope you guys don't skip the next couple of videos, and Avery from the future will be back very soon.